everyone. You're most welcome to Entrepreneurship Clinic live on PCG TV, and this is brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV. And this is your Entrepreneurship Clinic monthly series that comes your way each and every last Thursday of the month. And so you're most welcome once again. My name is Mavis Nakole Ayi, and in today's series, we are going to tackle one of the most crucial topics when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to even managing your businesses, and when it comes to starting a business, talking about funding and the requirements. And so stick and stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Entrepreneurship Clinic, brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV. And my name is Mavis Nakole Ayi. In today's edition, we are going to talk about funding and the requirements that you need. And so get your pens, get your books so that you can write something down for your entrepreneurship journey. In case you're a potential entrepreneur, it's also going to be good for you. It will give you a very good treat. And we have a very seasoned person in the studio today to have the conversation around this topic. And we are sponsored by the Salem Water and Salem range of products. And so we have the Salem mix and cereal mix. We have the hair food. We have groundnut paste and all the other products. And so just get in touch with the head office or any other Presbyterian institution, and you can get any of these products. And so just getting into our conversation, you are most welcome, Mr. Ernest Ama.
Thank you, Mavis.
So Mr. Ernest Ama is a global alumni coordinator for the AFS Youth Assembly. I got it right?
Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
And
yeah.
So he has a lot of background. So we'll be delving deeper into that, and then we move straight into our conversation talking about funding, opportunities available, and then the requirements that people have to meet so they can get access to funding and all of that. And so most welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Great. And so even before we go on, you can also join in the conversation, sending your comments or your experiences, or if you have any questions on our various social media platforms. On YouTube, we are there as PCG TV, on Facebook, PCG TV, or Presbyterian Relief Services. Just get in touch with us with your questions, with your comments, and any other experiences that you feel like sharing to be useful for all the other audiences. And so thank you very much for doing the watching. And we are going to spend the next 50 minutes with you right here on PCG TV. In the light, there is light. And so coming back to you, Mr. Ernest Ama, maybe I'll just go with Ernest so that we can
Sounds good.
Because I mean, you're a big man already. Yeah, so tell us a little about AFS Youth Assembly, just a bit.
Okay, so thanks for the question, Mavis, and let me say thank you again for having me on your program. The AFS Youth Assembly is a structured program where we convene young leaders, innovators, movers and shakers across the world, and then we convene them in New York to share ideas, to network, and to potentially collaborate on projects. It's a very well thought out intervention in terms of building the capacity of young leaders to be global citizens, and to also prepare them for the tasks ahead. Because whether we like it or not, in the 21st century, the problems that we are dealing with are not just local problems. They are transcontinental. So what happens in one place can affect the balance in another
where
place.
We can say we are in a global village.
Absolutely, yes. So the AFS Youth Assembly, what we basically do is that we prepare these young people to be global citizens.
Okay, that's very refreshing. So I'm sure someone will be thinking, okay, so if I apply to be a part of the Youth Assembly, I'll just be in New York. Can that be a motivation for someone?
Oh, of course, because at the core of what AFS does is to promote intercultural learning. Okay. So you cannot be culturally aware if you are stuck in one place. You need to move to experience other cultures, and that is really important. And it goes back to what I said earlier, that to tackle the problems of the 21st century, you need to have an internationalist perspective on issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like when you are part of the assembly, it is just you focusing on your community or something, but it's rather to make you a more global person. So
100%. Yeah.
What kind of criteria, or what's the selection criteria for anybody who wants to be a part of the assembly?
Okay, so first and foremost, I would say people should not be scared or intimidated about applying to the Youth Assembly. The first thing to do is to visit the Youth Assembly website, and we have the requirements there. I mean, there are requirements that I believe if you are a young leader, if you are someone that is making impact in your community, in your organization, in your country, wherever you are, this requirement should be something you should be able to meet. And once you do that, you'll be able to get the necessary approval to join us in New York for the assembly.
So are you always taking in, new cohorts, or it's an annual basis where you select the young people?
Yes, so the Youth Assembly is a seminar activity. It happens every year. So the next, this year's one will be happening in August. And we have already, the applications were announced long ago. So for those that are getting to hear this now, if you are interested in becoming involved in the AFS Youth Assembly, I would say just visit the Youth Assembly or AFS and subscribe to our newsletter. That's how you stay up to date on what we are doing. And so your target should be the Youth Assembly 2026. Yes.
That's early, because I'm thinking we just entered the year.
Yes, but it's always advisable that you start
Yeah.
early. Also because of the different waiting times for visa. So if you are in Africa, especially, we tend to have very longer waiting times. We always advise that you start the process early.
So you can join the queue early. That's refreshing to hear.
Absolutely.
So how is you being a coordinator for the AFS Youth Assembly alumni, and then issues about funding, how is it related?
Okay, that's a good question. So let me make things practical. If you're a young person and you have come up with an initiative, maybe to tackle a community challenge, you are in business.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say business, I'm not restricting myself to the commercial aspect of business alone. Business can have economic and social implications. So that's why we have for-profit and non-profit organizations. If you are tackling a community challenge, it means that you are in the business of providing value. And that value in this context means that you are tackling a specific challenge that makes the lives of other people better, and they get to see an improvement in their life as well. So in that context, if you are doing something amazing in your community, it gets to a time where you will want to scale what you are doing. You want to take it to the next level or improve it. And sometimes it could be that, yes, you started alone, but now it has reached a stage where to amplify the impact of your initiative, you need bigger resources.
Networks.
And when I mention resources, I'm not just talking about funding. It can also be capacity. There are certain things that you need to know, to appreciate, to understand, to be able to improve the impact of your initiative. And then, yes, it comes to funding as well, because you will need to purchase some equipment, some maybe softwares or some tools to accelerate the reach of your initiative. So when it gets there, of course, you will need external support. And in Africa, based on my experience, unfortunately, a lot of young people who take the initiative to do something meaningful with their lives often don't get the support that they need. So sometimes it can be very difficult. But fortunately, there are several avenues, platforms, and programs available to such people. And I believe once they tap into these opportunities, they can be able to grow and sustain their initiatives.
So I see a lot of it means that not just funding entrepreneurs or funding youth innovators, but they are also looking at even the kind of capacity you can give to them, and then exposing them to networks they can actually collaborate and work with.
Absolutely.
So what kind of innovative solutions are the young people that I know you may be connected to, a number of young people, considering the role that you're playing as the coordinator for the global alumni. So give us just an idea of the kinds of things the young people that you're coordinating are doing which you are supporting. So that gives somebody sitting out there also an idea of, okay, so if I'm into this, I can actually apply, be part of the assembly, and get the support that is needed.
Okay, so to put it simply, a lot of the projects or activities that we support at the Youth Assembly are activities that are linked or relevant to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
And so everything that you're doing to qualify for support from the Youth Assembly, it has to, has something to do with a broader development objective.
Okay.
And the reason for doing this is because the Sustainable Development Goals is a global metric.
Yeah.
So that is assessing the world's progress towards development.
Yeah.
And if we want to cultivate the capacity of people to be ready for global challenges, to be global citizens in the long term, it means that from the get-go, they have to be part of the solution globally. So that relevance, that connection between what you're doing and the Sustainable Development Goals have to be there. The second thing that I'll also talk about is to qualify for support, you have to be a participant in the AFS Youth Assembly. So it means that you would have applied to join the Youth Assembly at a certain point in time. And then once we see that, yes, we check the database and we see that, yes, you've been a part of the Youth Assembly before, you are one of our own. It means that you can reach out to us for support. But now thinking broadly about the question that you asked, I believe that there are people, not everyone will qualify to be a part of the Youth Assembly. Yeah. There are people that may be doing amazing stuff in their communities, but maybe there might be barriers.
Perspective.
Exactly, there might be barriers. Maybe they are not literate.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the application process to the Youth Assembly you have to do all in English, and you also have to also be beside a PC to do all those things. You should be able to communicate and articulate your ideas and your impact on the ground very well. So I believe there are people that are doing amazing stuff on the ground, but they are limited when it comes to distance. To those people, I believe there are commonsensical strategies that they can tap into to be able to raise funding to scale their projects.
We'll be getting into the types of funding and then even at the various levels. I just needed to, get our audience to know the kinds of things that if they are doing, they may be eligible to even apply for the assembly and then get support from there.
Right.
So it means that from what you are saying, even if you are recycling in your community, it means that it should have like a global kind of sense. That
Absolutely.
How is it going to impact globally? Or
I'm glad you mentioned recycling, because sustainability is at the heart of the SDGs. So if you are doing something in cycling already, there is a connection to the SDGs, and
that's like SDG 6 and
absolutely. So why not? You need to be part of the Youth Assembly because there are several people in there from several countries who are doing amazing stuff around environmental sustainability. So you stand to benefit from the networking, from other people's ideas, and even the opportunity to, to strike a partnership or collaboration with some of these people.
Great. If you are watching us, this is the Entrepreneurship Clinic, and the May edition. We are talking about funding opportunities and the requirements for you to get funding for your business, for your startup, for whatever initiative that you are taking in your community, wherever you find yourself. And we are speaking to Mr. Ernest Ama, who is the Global Alumni Coordinator for the AFS Youth Assembly. And we've been talking a lot about the assembly so that we know how we can get some opportunities from there as well. And this is brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV. And we are sponsored by Salem Water and the Salem range of products, cereal mix, tissue, and a host of other products. And so just get in touch for any of those other products. We are going for a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurship Clinic, the May edition, live on PCG TV, brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV. And we are sponsored by Salem Water and Salem range of products. And so get in touch for any of the products. If you want to trade in them, it's open for you to get access to those as well. And we are having a conversation on funding opportunities and the requirements that you need to meet to get access to funding for your business. If you're a potential entrepreneur, if you're already in business, do listen to us, do watch us, and make sure that you are taking some notes from our resource person so that you can have a very good treat for your entrepreneurship journey. And so you can also join in by sending your comments, for your questions, and all other experiences on our various social media platforms. On Facebook, we are there as PCG TV, or you can find us on Presbyterian Relief Services Department and Development as well. And then on YouTube, you can also find us on PCG TV as well for your comments and all the other questions that you have. We've been talking a lot about the AFS Youth Assembly and then how that's even related to how you can fund your innovation wherever you find yourself as a young person. Let's get into the other conversations as well, talking about funding. How easy is it for young people to get access to funding for whatever entrepreneurship venture they want to be in?
In Africa, it is not easy for young people to get access to funding. That is because it's not because these young people are not doing great things, and it has nothing to do with them at all. Okay. It's just that we have immature markets. Our markets infrastructure when it comes to financing and even capital generation is not as advanced as what pertains in developed countries. But I still believe that there's still potential. There are still pathways for young people in Africa to raise funding. And so let me begin with the obvious ones, the most conventional sources of funding. When we were in school, we were told, I did business in school, and we were told that if you are a business and you are having liquidity challenges, that's cash issues, and you want to raise money, just go to the nearest bank and and then get a loan. They'll slap some interest on it, but your business will make some surplus, and you can use that surplus to offset the interest. But we know that looking at the volatile nature of our market, it doesn't often work like that. So there is a big barrier when it comes to accessing funding from the traditional banks. The other bit also has to deal with the collateral requirements. You know, sometimes it's even above and beyond the reach of these young people. This is someone that has taken the initiative, has been able to start something, and it needs the extra push. And then you just go and then say that you want to see a collateral to the tune of like 1 million cedis. It's not practical. It's not feasible. So these barriers discourage young people from going to the traditional banks to raise money from there. But there are alternatives, and there are simple, practical alternatives available to young people. And I will start with crowdfunding. When we hear about crowdfunding, most of us tend to picture the online platform like GoFundMe and all of that. And yes,
that's where the crowd is.
Yes, those ones are there. But let's start from the scratch. So crowdfunding is something that we have actually been doing for a very long time. You know, it goes back to the times when you have an idea, brilliant idea, and you have started acting on it, but you don't have the money to scale it up. And then you approach that rich uncle, say that, oh, uncle, this is what I'm doing, you know, and I want to take this thing to the next level. And the uncle has a lot of disposable income, and then it comes to your rescue and then provides the funding. That's crowdfunding. So the first point of call for any young entrepreneur or any young person doing something around social impact or a commercial venture is that look at your immediate circle or your immediate community. Let's start with your family, for instance. You know, who can you raise money from? If you are lucky and you happen to be the last born, you know, start from the top, your top siblings, and then, you know, start harassing them.
Advantages of last born.
You know, I'm not a last born, I'm a firstborn. So I'm just saying it because my brother is here, and the way he has been hustling me for stuff, you know, you start like that. And then you pitch to them because you have to make a case.
Yeah.
They have to invest in something that is worth investing in. It's not a charity thing.
Yeah.
Whether your idea has commercial value or social impact value,
It must
what
have a
you
value.
receive, thank you, what you receive to scale it up should not come from the basis of charity or from the basis of pity. People who invest in you, starting with your family, people must see the value in what you are doing. So you approach them, you tell them that, look, I'm doing this thing, and based on the results that I've gotten so far, if we have this, that in place, I will be able to impact the lives of 2,000 people in the next 2 years. Now, when you make such a case to your siblings, your older siblings, they'll go like, okay, so this our brother has actually been thinking. So they'll be curious. So convince us what leads you to this conclusion. And that is where you have an opportunity to present what you've done to them.
Yeah.
And that's how you make a case. So you don't make the case with your mouth. You don't make the case with lip service. You make a case with the minimal results that you've been able to achieve.
Evidence-based.
Now, after them, you've spoken to them, they have put in what they can, and you have now been able to make certain progress. Now, the thing about business or projects is that when money comes in and you accelerate, the demand actually grows. So it doesn't stop. So it reaches a point where now, initially you needed 1,000 cities, but now you need 10,000. Now your siblings tell us, we don't have 10,000 to give you. We've done our best. We've supported you. So now you have to consider external sources. So this is where you approach certain people. So let me, for the sake of this conversation, let me neatly put them in two categories. There are angel investors, and then there are the venture capitalists. So the angel investors are people that will come in and will say, oh, we can see that you are doing something amazing. We want to support you. But to make sure that you don't mess up, we want to see that you are in a position to meet these requirements. How is your record keeping like? How is your people management skills like? How is your financial discipline like? So they'll be giving you the money, all right, without any strings attached to it, without any interest.
That's like grant.
Absolutely. Technically like free money. But what they want to ensure is that you will use this money wisely, you know, to be able to achieve the intended result. So they will be very strict on those requirements. Now, let's say that you approach them and you felt like their requirements are too outrageous. I can't make it like, I want to spend full time on my business. You're telling me about accounting books and stuff. And no, I won't do that. So let me go and speak to the other guys, the venture capitalists. Now you go to them and they will tell you that, look, before we invest your business, we have to see that this thing has potential. And if it has potential, we want 30% of it. So if we put the 10,000 into it, we want 30% equity or ownership in that business. So in that scenario, it's not free money.
It has moved from free.
This thing. So now you have the two options and you have to weigh which one best works for you. From my experience and the other roles that I've performed, most entrepreneurs will gravitate toward the angel investor route, and they will want to also find a way to circumvent the requirements so that they'll be able to get access to the free money and do as little as possible. To those listening to me, I want them to understand something. Whatever project that you are working on, okay, yes, it is true that you started it. You were the brain behind it. But once a project grows from its embryonic stage and becomes matured and it starts scaling, it is no longer about
Just you.
And that's why in business terms, the business is the project or whatever enterprise that you are running is recognized as a separate entity. Okay, At that point, it's no longer about you. This is a baby that you brought forth, but now you have to be responsible. You have to treat it with care. You have to nurture it well, because there are serious implications for its growth. Other people stand to benefit from it. It starts to make a big difference in even the economic situation of your country and all of that. So it's big. So this is not the time to be careless. So the climate that we have here is that we tend to see a lot of sole proprietorships. That is because people are not willing to go through the processes of scaling and growing their business. And that also explains why when the founder of an enterprise or initiative dies, after a brief period, the initiative also dies with them.
Collapse. But is this same for people who maybe want to start now? Like, for all that you're saying is about someone who has already started a business and all of that. But how about someone who now wants to start a business? Do they also have to go through the same process?
Yes. So if you are a person that is now going to start, what I would say is that stick to the fundamentals.
Okay.
One, what you are going to do, you will have to go through it to see if it is feasible. It's one thing to have an idea, it's another to execute. And in execution, that is where you put the thought that came to you against the external environment. So how the external environment responds to your thoughts will prove to you whether you have landed something worth pursuing. Okay? So you have to do that, and that is solely your responsibility. You have to do that. Now, in doing so, you also have to look out to the value of the intervention. Don't create a solution in search of a problem.
Okay. You can repeat that.
Don't create a solution in search of a problem. It's the other way around.
Find the problem first.
You have been living in that community for a long time. You've seen the indiscriminate disposal of waste, and then a thought comes to you on how you can come up with a more appropriate, environmentally friendly way of disposing waste in a manner that keeps the environment clean and also prevents the outbreak of diseases within the community. So now the innovation that you are coming up with, how well does that solve the particular problem?
Okay.
So that's what you have to check for. Now, when you establish that this thing can solve a problem, and this depends on whether you want to go the commercial route or the social intervention or social entrepreneurship route. Can the people in your community pay for the service that you are rendering? Can they pay?
Okay.
If they can pay, you start piloting it with few people. So over time, the money that you make from there, that's what you use to scale to a larger market, because people are paying. So now you have a commercial business. But if the community that you are serving, most of the people falls within the vulnerable bracket, they cannot afford to pay.
Exactly. So we will talk more about that, and even talk about at the local level, the funding opportunities that may be available, and then at the regional and global levels, there are available opportunities as well for potential entrepreneurs and those that are already in business. So if you are watching us, this is Entrepreneurship Clinic, the May edition, talking about funding opportunities and the requirement to secure some funding for your ideas, whether you want to venture the social enterprise part of it or you want to go commercial. What do you need to know so that you can secure some funding for your entrepreneurship journey? And so this is also brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV. And we are sponsored by Salem Water and Salem range of products. Do stick and stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurship Clinic right here on PCG TV, brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department. And we are sponsored by Salem Water and Salem range of products. We have cereal mix, we have tissues, we have water, We have all the other things, hair food and body lotion as well. And so do get in touch at any other Presbyterian institution or the head office and get some of these products for yourself. And we are having a conversation on funding and requirements that need to secure the funding opportunities that you are looking forward to. And in the studio for the conversation is Mr. Ernest Ama, who is the Global Alumni Coordinator for the AFS Youth Assembly. And we've been talking a lot about some of the things you need to actually put in place so that you can think of getting funding and the avenues that you could also explore for funding opportunities for your business. And if you're a potential entrepreneur, this is the right place to be because it helps you to really start well and be on a very right journey. And so coming back on where we left off, talking about what you need to do if you are a potential or you are yet to start, and how you should rather find a problem before the solution, not the solution before the problem.
Yeah.
For people who may be at the local level, let's say Ghana.
Yeah.
What are there any specific funding avenues that they can explore? Maybe I am doing something in my community somewhere in a corner. I don't intend to go global because that is where I can fit, or I make more impact. What should the environment look like for me, and what are the available funding opportunities? And then maybe you can talk about definitely the requirements over there. Okay,
so to start with, I would say that you need to do an analysis of the situation in your community. Understand that there are certain communities that are well off than others.
Mm-hmm.
So having an understanding of the community, whether it's is urban, rural, or peri-urban, and then the income bracket of the people. Understanding that is really important because it gives you an insight into the purchasing power of the people that you'll be serving.
Your market.
Absolutely. So once you've done that, and let's say for the sake of this conversation, you have seen that the people there cannot afford the solution that you are coming up with, but they stand to benefit most from that, you have a solid business case. Mm-hmm. These are things that the angel investors and the international organizations that give grants, these are the things that they love to see. You clearly have a case, for something like that. So you have to put that information in a pitch or in a business plan. Absolutely. And then approach them and let them know that, look, this is something that you've come up with, but unfortunately the people that you'll be serving cannot afford it. So how can you support me to take this off? Let me sound a word of caution to people out there. The mere fact that you have done this incredible thing doesn't mean that once you open those doors, you will be guaranteed support.
Don't be too excited.
Absolutely. It doesn't work like that.
Okay.
In the funding game, it takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of perseverance. But what I consider to be the non-negotiable, a must-have, is that once you have done the painstaking work to see that you are standing on something of supreme value to society, you must have confidence in what you are doing. It's super, super important. You cannot convince me to support or invest in something that you yourself don't believe
have
in.
Confidence in.
No, it's a big red flag. And oftentimes when people start encountering rejections, they tend to give up.
Discouraged.
Easily. Sometimes it could be the timing. There are certain interventions, solutions that when you are pitching, people don't understand it yet. It doesn't mean you are doing something wrong, but it means that they don't understand it yet. They don't understand what you're doing yet. Okay? So you need to give it some time. It could also be that your proposal doesn't align with the strategic objectives of that organization at that point in time.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they are rejecting you. It doesn't align with their priorities at that point in time. So if you are perceptive to these things, it means that you have to keep the relationship channel open and be reaching out
Hoping
regularly.
that-
Absolutely. Because once there is a clear alignment, you get the support, because all these international organizations, their primary interest is results. And the results is the dividend on the grants that they give you. Okay? So patience, resilience, and belief in what you are doing, very crucial, very important. If I may add additional one, so I mentioned international institutions, and when it comes to grants, there are processes that you go through, there are requirements. They want to see a number of things. They want to see for instance, the beneficiaries that are, that are tapping from your intervention, and if it is big enough to be supported, the sustainability of your ideas.
Okay.
Some even go to the extent of checking for the internal governance structures that you have there. Because if what you are doing is fantastic, it has to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And critical to sustainability is a strong internal governance structure. So they will insist on that. Some organizations will want to support you if you don't have that.
Yeah.
See, so once you approach them and they are asking for these things, please, it's not like they want to
stress you and
frustrate you. No, it's for the good of the intervention, because the intervention ideally should outlast you. It should be a legacy that you should leave behind.
That can be scaled up.
Yes, and I'm working with AFS today. AFS is a legacy institution. It was started by someone, but the person is no more, but the organization is still running.
there.
See, so we need more AFS organizations, and that's how it starts. So you need to be patient. You need to go through the process for them to support you. But if you don't have the, should I say, the heart for these things, you want to keep your staff and all those things, assess your immediate circles, family, church, social circles, school groups and stuff, things that can be done at the informal level where people can support you, or if there are even susu groups that you can do, you can pull your funds together to do it. You can explore those sources. But what I've seen is that approaching the international organizations, the grant-making institutions, to not only support you with the seed funding, but also give you the capacity, the networks support. From what I've seen, it makes a lot of difference.
Okay. So are there any specific institutions maybe in Ghana here that you can mention that are giving funding to young entrepreneurs that people can just walk in and say, this is my idea, my proposal, can you go through, do I stand a chance? Any specific organizations like that? Okay, yes, there are many, but I would not mention the specific organization's name, but I will mention the programs that they are running, so that people can, when people even Google it, it will take them there. Okay. The reason I don't want to mention is that sometimes the programs, the nature of it changes. Okay. So maybe if I say it and somebody will take, Ernest was on this program and he said, if I come to you, you give me that. So no, so it doesn't work like that. So there are what we call incubator programs. This is when you now have your idea fresh from the start, and these institutions will support you to grow the idea to a point where there will be what we call product market fit. Okay. Where the value case of your intervention or product or service is established. And then there is also the accelerator. That is after you now have a concrete idea, and then you have the minimum viable product, and now you are ready to go to the market, and then they will support you. Now, in each of these stages, there are key requirements that you have to meet. It's not like you just walk in and they just support you. There are certain things that they will want to see, and those are their requirements. So you need to be able to meet those requirements, and you need to also commit to certain things to be eligible to the support schemes that they have there. So assuming that I'm talking to somebody that already has a minimum viable product, has already started something on the ground, this will be someone that will now have to take it from the accelerator to the growth levels. So for such people, I would say
start looking into institutions, accelerator programs that can meet your need.
Okay.
When I talk about accelerator programs, like I mentioned the Impact Hub immediately, because that's what they've been doing for a very long time.
Okay.
But depending on the sector that it falls into, if it's around children, be looking into UNICEF. If it's around environmental sustainability, be looking into the Gates Foundation.
Okay.
Around healthcare, be looking into the Gates Foundation as well. But if you feel strongly that your business or your intervention has reached a point where you don't just need funding support, but you need a combination of funding, networking, and potential for partnerships and all of that, then you are ready for the AFS Youth Assembly.
Okay.
And that's why we are there.
For you.
Yes. So now you have to come to us.
Okay.
And so that will help you, scale things to the next level.
That's very useful over there. But I'm just thinking, are there avenues where maybe entrepreneurs can negotiate the requirements? That maybe, this is too high, but if we do it this way, we may get the same result. So can you beat it down?
The requirements exist for a reason. It exists for a reason. It's not to punish you. It's not to stress you. They exist for a reason, because if you are tapping into a grant, you're going for a grant, for instance, the grant requirements are there to make sure that the grant gets to the people that most need it. And how can you establish that? It is through the requirements. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the grant making organization will also have to explain themselves to the people who give them the grant money as well. So these requirements are there so that they'll be able to also make a case that, look, we didn't just take your grant and then go and then distribute it anyhow, somewhere. But we're able to use that to support these people. And at the time that these people applied to us, this was where they are. But after receiving your grant, this is where they are now and where they are even going. Those are the news that these people want to hear. And that is why the requirements are in place.
But sometimes you would find organizations that they really align with the objectives of the donors or whoever wants to fund the investor. But it happens that maybe the country-specific structures do not allow for them to meet some of the requirements from the donor. I don't know if from your coordination you have experienced anything like that and you could share, so that if anybody encounters such a challenge, they know how to go about it. That if your requirements, I may be willing to, but because of structures that exist around me, I cannot. So, but we'll still arrive at the end point.
I get what you're saying, and it can be very challenging. For instance, there are very promising people that wanted to participate in our programs, but for reasons like even visa, they couldn't, and so they were denied the opportunity to benefit from even seed funding opportunities and networking and capacity building opportunities. So I completely get where you are coming from. So there are situations, especially when there are challenges that when it's at the geopolitical level, there is little that these institutions can do. Even if you take the example of USAID, for instance, once the executive fiat came, there's little, that they can do about that. So those are situations that, unfortunately,
very practical.
You cannot do anything about it. But then, what I believe is that the opportunity is not only at one place. It's not local. It's not only in one place. There are several opportunities out there that you can still tap into. And sometimes, if you happen to be in a place where there are barriers to you accessing some of these opportunities, this is where partnerships and collaborations come in.
I think we'll come to talk about the challenges and even with issues of partnership and how to select the right partner and all of that. But we are going for a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation on funding and requirements for you in your entrepreneurship journey right here on PCG TV, talking about, in fact, on the Entrepreneurship Clinic, the May edition. And so do stick and stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurship Clinic May edition, where we are talking funding and requirements for your entrepreneurship journey. If you are a potential entrepreneur or you're already in business, this is the right place for you to be. And it is brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV, and we are sponsored by Salem Water and the Salem range of products. And so do get in touch for any of these products. In the studio, we are having Mr. Ernest Ama, who is the coordinator, global alumni coordinator for AFS Youth Assembly, and we've talked a lot about that. You could also check online to see more about it and how you can get in, so you could get some funding opportunities when the time is due for you. Before we left off, we were talking about some of the challenges, especially when it comes to not being able to meet a certain requirement and having to look elsewhere and all of that. Now, tell us more about the challenges. I mean, the hurdles that people should expect, so that when it gets there, they don't feel like it's because of my idea or the kind of place I'm situated and all of that. Tell us more.
Okay, right. So the first thing has to do with the leadership capacity of the person.
Okay.
So when you start asking for bigger resources, or you're asking for support from people, the first thing that they will want to see is your capacity to handle the resources that you're asking for. So once they are not sure about that, that's a big red flag, and they will be very hesitant to support you. So you, the person behind the project or the business, should be in a position to lead yourself. Okay. It's very important. The second thing too has to deal with the operational or the administrative aspects of your project or business. So your books are not in order. The people under you can't tell whether they are people that are actually working for the business or against the business. If it's a commercial project, your revenues, profit and loss margins not convincing enough. And then I've spoken about books. It has to do with accounting, for instance. The figures that you are throwing about and what you are saying about the business, they don't align. So these are red flags that when people see, even though they'll be excited about your idea, but they'll see that we're not sure we'll be able to manage it well. Those that are very considerate will say that, look, we'll give you the money, but we want to hold your hand throughout the process. We'll need an advisor, people, that will guide you. And
are there lots of those people?
Yeah, so the advisors actually come from the grant making organization. They will select. You don't get to choose the advisors. So for instance, we will choose the advisors for you. Yes, and they will insist. So we'll now break down the funding in tranches. So if you are able to meet the requirement up to this level, like the question you asked, that the requirement seems burdensome, you cannot meet all of them, we can structure it.
Okay. We
can break them down. So if you are able to meet this, we'll disburse 30% to you. Okay. If you are able to meet that, we'll disburse 50% to you. If you are able to meet that, we'll disburse 20% to you. So in that order. That also means that if you are unable to meet them, you'll not get anything. Yes. So that is that. So personal leadership is very critical. The operational and the administrative staff of your work is also very important. The third thing is the governance structure of your enterprise. How are decisions made? Organizations. If your intervention is something that you've grown to a certain level where now the decisions that you make are very consequential. When I mean consequential, it means that when your product goes to the market, thousands of people are going to consume it. When it comes to the safety of your business, who makes those decisions? Is it just you? Or there are people, experts around you that support you, that are able to bring you to a conclusion that is empirical, that is scientific, such that your product will not create harm to the wider society. If your business is now supporting thousands of people, and yet you are still the person making decisions on it, that's a serious governance red flag.
Maybe the person is a shark.
No, it's impossible. No. Then you can say that then Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, they could have been everything at Microsoft and Meta and then what have you. Yeah. But they, looking at even their level, they still have people taking care of this. And I'm sure there are products that they even feel so strongly about, but the people around them will say, no, we are not sure about the repercussions on people here. So please hold on to it until we've done enough tests to convince ourselves that these things will be safe for people.
Okay.
So for the sake of this discussion, I've discussed 3 things: your personal leadership capacity,
your governance,
operational and then administrative issues, and then the governance aspect. And the governance aspect, to throw one last thing in, also has to do with the interpersonal dynamics. If the nature of your project is, or business or enterprise is such that there is a co-ownership, there are co-founders and stuff, what is the relationship between the co-founders? You know, if the business has grown to a point where there is a senior management, there is a board, what is the relationship dynamics between them like? Are they fighting each other? Are they aligned? Are they backbiting? All these things.
To ask that, do the requirements, or if anybody wants to secure funding for the innovations they want to bring up, either in commercial or social enterprise, does it have to do with whether you're an individual or if you're a group of people that you want to, does it play a role in being able to secure funding for whatever it is you want to do?
I would say it depends on the funding you're applying for. There are some funds that will want to see a corporate entity. So if you are one, no, it's a red flag. Okay. So that's why it's important that you read the information on the funding. Each fund and its purpose. There are specific purposes that are tied to it. So if most grants in Africa, like the angel investments, because the expectations are minimal, I mean, if you are one person, so far as you are able to show that you are working on a fantastic idea that has a lot of promise in it, that is okay. So whether you are one person, they will be willing to support. But where we are talking about scale that goes into thousands of people and the resource requirements are also huge, like you're requesting for a million CDs and stuff, it's a big deal. They will want to see things that will convince them that their funding or their investment will not go to waste. So it's important to read the information related to the funding that you are applying for.
Very useful. We'll be wrapping up very shortly, but before we come and then we wrap up, we are going for a very short break. We'll be back to conclude the discussion. Welcome back to Entrepreneurship Clinic, the May edition, where we are talking funding and the requirements that you need to meet to secure funding for yourself. And we've been speaking to Mr. Ernest Ama in the studio. We have just minutes to go. And before we go, any final words talking about how people should handle funding and anything final? Yeah.
Okay. So let me give a word of encouragement to young people that have taken the initiative to run their own enterprises and business. I know that in our part of the world, it's really tough.
Yeah.
And so the path that they have taken, I know that is not an easy path, but it's also the path that holds a lot of promise for the continent. And so I will encourage them to keep on doing what you're doing, and there are support out there. The most important thing is that they should remain diligent, they should remain focused on what they are building, and when the time is right, when they apply to institutions like AFS, Youth Assembly for support, they shouldn't give up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ernest Ama, Global Alumni Coordinator for AFS Youth Assembly, and we've been talking a lot about funding and the requirements that you need to meet to secure some funds for your entrepreneurship journey. If you're a potential entrepreneur, if you're already in business, there have been a lot of discussions, and so you can replay this and then watch on our various social media platforms as well. It's been your Entrepreneurship Clinic May edition, brought to you by the Development and Social Services Department in collaboration with PCG TV and sponsored by Salem Water and Salem range of products. Do join us on our other edition as well. See you, and my name is Mavis Nakole Ayi.